Hi, Michael Blue here from the Blue Law Group. I'm an attorney, a certified public accountant. I'm board certified by the State Bar of California as a specialist in taxation, and I hold my Juris Doctorate law degree from Northwestern University School of Law and an advanced law degree in LL.M, my Master's of Law in Taxation from New York University School of Law. I'm coming today to you to speak about the CARES Act, and in particular the Payroll Protection Program of the CARES Act. I have another video where I speak on the EIDL, which is a different program under the CARES Act. And as I mentioned, if you watch that video, but I'll mention it here, that the CARES Act, which is the Corona Aid Relief and Economic Securities Act, the CARES being the acronym, recently passed by Congress. It initiated really a slew of programs, but two programs in particular resonate with business owners, and that's the Paycheck Protection Program and the EIDL, the Emergency Relief, Disaster Relief Act, the EIDL, Emergency Injury Disaster Relief Loan Act or Program, and the acronym there is the EIDL. Those are your two big programs that actually augment the other programs that exist at the SBA, primarily the 7A program. That's your traditional program. And so there's been some confusion as to what to apply for, and in some cases some of my clients have been believing that they've been applying for one thing and turns out that they were applying for another. So I just want to make sure that the record is clear, that you have your standard SBA loan program called the 7A program, and then with CARES there was an additional two programs that were created. Again, the Paycheck Protection Program, primarily geared towards protecting payroll and providing some liquidity to business owners to maintain their payrolls, maintain their employees, and the EIDL program, which really is more of a longer term loan program designed not just for maintaining your employees, but also for paying your other business debts. Circling back now to the Paycheck Protection Program. First and foremost, the entities that qualify primarily are going to be your businesses that have less than 500 employees. There's some other qualifying factors that can qualify entities, but that is the one that is going to qualify the vast majority of businesses in this country. In addition to that, there are nonprofits that also qualify with less than 500 employees, and so that's important to understand the entities that can qualify for this Paycheck Protection Program. Now, the amount is maximized at $10 million, which is in contrast to the $2 million maximum that is available under the EIDL program. $10 million is available as a maximum under this program, and there is a calculation to be made, and there's different calculations, but primarily the one that is going to apply very likely to the vast majority of businesses is the calculation of 2.5 months times your average monthly payroll expense. And so the average monthly is going to be determined by the previous 12 months, the so-called look-back period, where you take a monthly average over those previous 12 months, and then you multiply it by a factor of 2.5, which gets you your 2.5 months of average payroll expense. Now, what's important here, not just the calculation, because that determines the extent of the loan that you will be qualifying for, you will be eligible for. But really the important factor here is that the payroll expense is actually a broader term than is normally and otherwise used. The payroll expense actually includes independent contract. Among additional inclusions is independent contractors and sole proprietors that you issue 1099s for. that is a huge expansion on your normal definition of payroll expense. And so, you, for example, under a hypothetical, you might have $30,000 of employee wages on average over the previous 12 months. And you might have $2,000 or $10,000 that you pay independent contractors or sole proprietors. And what you're going to be allowed to do is to add those $10,000. So instead of $30,000, you're going to be able to have a base of $40,000, and then you apply that 2.5 factor to the $40,000 instead of the $30,000, and that's going to net you a product of $100,000. 2.5 times 40,000 versus $75,000, which would be 2.5 times $30,000. So that is fantastic. That is monies that you are going to be able to use to pay not just your payroll expenses, but additional expenses like mortgage interest, if it is business related, the rent, if it's business related, as well as utilities, and in some cases payments on existing debt. Now, there's no fees. The SBA is been mandated to charge no fees unless it's not possible, and then they're supposed to reduce it to the furthest extent possible. And so there's no prepayment penalty. So all these costs that are usually incurred in a regular SBA 7A loan are, much of them are being waived and relaxed. And so the SBA guarantees these loans. These loans are secured through a private SBA qualified lender. So as opposed to the EIDL loan program that is administered directly by the government, and you would apply for that EIDL at SBA.gov, the Paycheck Protection Program is actually administered, and the funds are advanced to you through your private SBA lenders, but it's guaranteed by the government. 100% of that money is guaranteed for the balance of 2020, and 75 to 85% is guaranteed the years after 2020, depending on the size of the original loan. And so any payment back on this loan is deferred for 6 months automatically and up to a year. And so so that is phenomenal. I mean, you can access significant dollars. There's a deferral period for 6 months to a year. We're not paying anything. And there is actually a loan forgiveness portion of this program. And it's got some complexity, but basically a very quick summary is that if you pay specific expenses for an 8-week period, then what you are going to be able to do is to file a loan forgiveness request with your SBA private lender, be it a commercial bank or an investment house or something that is SBA approved. You're gonna file a request for forgiveness, and if you substantiate through checks and invoices and whatever records that allow you to substantiate that these monies were used for this particular group of expenses, then you're going to be eligible to be forgiven, and therefore the loan becomes a grant. And the government is not going to tax you on any of that forgiveness. Forgiveness is qualified as a cancellation of debt under the tax code, under the federal tax code. That is usually recognized as income. There are some limitations that I won't get into, but it's usually recognized as income. However, under CARES, even though it qualifies this loan forgiveness as cancellation on debt, it will not be picked up as income under CARES. And so that is a huge benefit for those who are taking out these loans. And additionally, one last thing I want to convey to you all is this category of expenses. And so as long as you're paying for the payroll expenses, mortgage interest that is related to the business, in connection with the business, rent, and utilities, if you can show that that's where these monies went, then you are going to be eligible for that forgiveness and converting a loan now into a grant. And best practices would be, and this is sort of my CPA side coming out rather than my lawyer side coming out, is to open up a separate account under the business. Of course, it's going to be the business's a bank account, and depositing those Paycheck Protection Program funds into that account, and then issuing checks from that account, paying exclusively for the category of expenses that I mentioned. At the end of 6 months, usually when the deferral period ends, unless you can qualify for a year deferral period, that is generally when most are going to file these requests for the loan forgiveness. And so you'll be able to print these bank statements. They're going to be exclusively accepting the SBA funds on this Paycheck Protection Program, and they're going to be exclusively issuing payments to these category of expenses that I mentioned. It is going to be much cleaner, much neater. You'll be able to order these checks separate and distinct from your operating account, which usually is going to have a lot of other checks, a lot of other transactions. You're going to be free of all trying to isolate these transactions, do this litany, this sea of transactions. They're going to all be relegated into one bank account. There's going to be no cherry picking or no assessing. You just grab all those transactions. All those transactions should be pertinent and relevant to the loan forgiveness. And so with that, my name is Michael Blue of the Blue Law Group. Please feel free to come and visit us at bluelawgroup.com. Feel free to check out our website, and also feel free to give us a call if you have any questions. Thank you very much.